he's trying to log in. Uh-oh. He can't hear me. I'm talking to him. He can't hear me. Yes? No? Uh-oh. That's what we get for trying. Where are you? No? Where's your camera? Oh, there we go. Yeah? Uh-oh. Well, that's what we get for trying, I guess. Oh, we're going to start anyway.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States. At least we think so, going forward a little bit, sort of. I had winter where it was. Winter has returned, by the way, in a very ugly, nasty, angry way. Part of these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere, on this planet Earth, the only one we have, third rock from the sun, in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect, TKE tonight, live with you for the 14th of January, 2024. You may have noticed at the beginning of the program here, George actually did try to log in, and it did not go well. Just simply have to face the fact that our joint, we're just not in good shape hardware-wise. I don't want to bore you with a lot of inside baseball sort of talk here. That's not what you're here for. This is not a woe is me sort of thing. George and I desperately need new broadcast equipment. His computers are old and outdated. Mine are old and outdated. And you wouldn't think necessarily, and I could totally understand why you would feel this way. You might think that this wouldn't happen, that computers would just sort of work But what's happening to both of our computers are they're literally degrading right in front of us. Things that they could do yesterday, they cannot do today, and so on and so on and so on. And it would seem, despite our best efforts, it would seem as though we can no longer, George can no longer join the program live. He is in the Facebook chat. You can chat with him, ask him questions, send him your best wishes, tell him jokes, whatever it is that you want to do. He is in the Facebook chat. But as far as him being actually on screen with me and able to exchange dialogue with me, apparently not anymore. Anyway, and that it should make me realize too, by the way, that you are stuck with me then until such a point as we can purchase a new computer, because I can't imagine that I would be able to have a guest at this point either, because I do think part of the problem is my computer, not just his. So I don't know when we'll be having a guest again. I actually have quite a number of guests lined up, or at least people who have said that they're willing to come on the program. I just don't know when they're going to be able to visit, because I'm not sure I can have a guest at this point. Well, let's get to the business end of the program anyway, shall we? 8:07 Eastern Time. You are watching and listening to TKE Tonight, Kennedy Effect tonight, for the 14th of January, a very, very cold 14th of January, 2025. We are only less than 6 full days, and Tuesday for all intent and purposes over. Let's say we're 5 days away from Inauguration Day, Monday the 20th. You can now watch us live. We are literally live as we speak. You can watch us live on the Facebook pages of TCP Media Group, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, Ghost Claw Productions, my own Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, in a fancy blue square, right at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And of course, our home group Facebook page for all things surround our program. That Other Side of Information. That's the name of the Facebook group, That Other Side of Information. It's also the name of our YouTube channel. We are live there right now as well, youtube.com/That Other Side of Information. We're live on Twitch, Jeff Kennedy Talk Host. Or if you just put in Jeff Kennedy, I think at this point you will find me no matter what. We are live on LinkedIn as well. Jeff Kennedy is the place to find us on LinkedIn. We continue to do really quite well on LinkedIn. It's very, it's pleasantly strange. Not the kind of place that you would think that this type of thing would do well, but it is doing well. The audio, of course, we've shared the program to about 100 groups across the Facebook universe, and to every single one of you, to every single individual, to every group, both large and small, and public and private and local and regional, statewide, national, global. And yes, there are some global groups in there. We are literally on some Facebook groups on a regular basis that have members from around this small blue dot of ours. To all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Our program could not exist without your help and support and your toleration of us being on your corner of the Facebook universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I do happen to know, by the way, a couple of groups that do allow us to share. They're not particular fans of the program. They don't watch it, but they allow the members of their group to at least have the ability to take it in if they want, which is the highest praise that I think I could give any other group administrator, is that my folks, I may not like this, but my folks in my group might, therefore I share it with them. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. I did the YouTube, I did the Twitter. The sound, this audio sound of the program currently goes out around the globe via GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio. Our website is gcpr.live, gcpr.live. If you can connect to the internet anywhere below, on, or above Earth, you can listen to GCPR.live. The easiest place to listen is through our website, GCPR.live. A special hello, by the way. I'm going to have to ask Thomas to run these numbers again. But a very special hello to our watchers, viewers, listeners, followers, subscribers, all those things from outside the United States. Obviously, we spend a tremendous amount of time on this program dealing with things inside the U.S. A special hello and thank you and welcome to our watchers, viewers, and listeners, and subscribers, and followers, and all of those things from outside the United States. You are all, if you are breathing and can hear me, you are welcome here. Coming up immediately following us from 9 p.m. is Hurricane Girls, at least they're scheduled. From 9 p.m. here on GCPR Live, Hurricane Girls from 9 p.m. It's Tuesday, right? Somebody's going to tell me. If I try to open the website now, I'm going to start reverberating on myself because I don't have the sound right now. Hurricane Girls scheduled to follow us from 9 p.m. here on GCPR. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11 p.m. and Thomas returns tomorrow morning from 8 with yet another hot, steaming pot serving of the sound of coffee. Let's get to our headlines of the day. Oh, we will take. I desperately encourage your comments and questions in the chats. I see all the chats from YouTube, from Twitch, I see them all. Wherever you are, I'm encouraging your comments as always. Let me get to our big story of the day. I mean, clearly, the biggest story of the day, I think, goes without question. It's Jack Smith's report. I know that the fires continue to burn in Southern California, but it's Jack Smith's report, really. I mean, it just is. It's the biggest. It's a huge story. Here's the important. I think the single most important takeaway from the report. The single most important legal takeaway from the report is the end, the summation. And while I'm going to butcher, I'm just going to butcher. I won't be able to quote it directly because I'll probably screw it up. I keep trying to find the article. Here it is. We'll do this one from the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company. And it's funny because I just had a conversation with a friend today about a significant person to them being a Trump supporter and how they deal with it and how they get information to each other. And it's not easy. One of the things that I encouraged her to do was to try to get the Trumper in her life. And we all have some, by the way. To take in media sources from outside the United States. We know that Trumpers are not terribly good with domestic news. Well, they're not terribly good with news, period. They're really not good with facts and science and data. But news media continues to be perhaps the most direct and efficient way to inform oneself. Now that Meta, Facebook, has decided it will no longer fact check, and by the way, some of the fake articles that have gone up on Facebook about Zuckerberg, because there's no fact checking anymore, are absolutely fracking hilarious. They just are. Some of them are absolutely naughty, like in a lot of ways. Like they're properly naughty. Some of them are cheeky beyond words, but they're also absolutely hilarious, because be careful what you wish for. And I don't think I talked a hell of a lot about that. Let me just put this out there. I'm going really way off on a bunch of different tangents here. Zuckerberg did not end fact-checking just because of Trump. That's part of it. He wants Trump to leave him alone. He doesn't want regulation. He does not want oversight. He does not want taxes. He doesn't want anything. And to be completely left alone to do what he wants, how he wants, when he wants to. He's a fascist at heart. Don't think he started out that way when he was poor and a struggling college student. But he is now. He's one of the richest people on the planet. Fascism seems to come with it. So he's not just doing this out of a fear of Trump, although that's part of it. He's doing it. He fired the fact-checking team because he doesn't have to pay any of those people. Don't think that that's not part of this. I've heard estimates that the fact-checking team was costing as much as $50 million a year. Now, when you are worth a couple $100 billion, $50 million is chump change. But the business mind is always looking for ways to cut costs. So Zuckerberg himself moves to Texas, no state income tax. Very few regulations on anything. It's a fascist state operating under the American flag, as is Florida. And I would say probably Montana. And others to a lesser extent, but certainly more than the framers ever imagined. So he didn't just do this to acquiesce to Trump, although I do think that's part of it. Saving money. It's just a cost-cutting thing. He doesn't want to pay these people. He doesn't want to pay their health benefits. He doesn't want to pay them when they take a vacation day. He doesn't want to pay their salaries. I don't think the fact-finding department, office, administration, if you will, was costing that much. But even if it was costing $100 million, is that financial savings worth all the integrity of your platform? And look, I'm still here. They haven't censored me yet. I do think it was hilarious. I had a post of mine blocked over the weekend because supposedly it wasn't factual, which is just about the most effing funny thing you could possibly think of. But that said, I'm still on Facebook and I'm not going anywhere. I still don't think it's as bad as what Musk has done to Twitter. And a program like mine has to be on social media, just period. We have to be. We can't reach you any other way. I don't have any terrestrial radio stations, much to their stupidity, including the very first one that was going to put me on. And here I am speaking to literally millions of people around the globe, and they are, I think they're still on the air, I'm not sure, but they wouldn't have me because it's too controversial. Because, yeah, God knows I say ridiculous stuff. But that said, I really didn't talk about that. I didn't intend to talk about it. I just kind of thought of it as this unusual weeknight rambling stream of consciousness when my brain opens up. Let me get to one of the big stories of the day. Forgive me. There is not enough water. I simply can't get enough fluids lately. I did have a very salty dinner, which is my mistake. But I'm completely without. I'm just dried out, total dry out. That said, let's get to it. This is from the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company. Oh, now I remember how I went on this big tangent. You got a Trumper in your life, suggest to them foreign media. Countries and media that have no real stake in what's happening here in this country other than to provide the service of factual news. I highly recommend the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company. I'm going to read from them in just a bit. NHK from Japan. They actually came to my house once and did a story on me on this program. NHK from Japan. And of course the BBC from the UK, probably the world's foremost news gathering organization, with reporters and news desks and bureaus in damn near every country on the planet. And why can they do this? Because they are government run. They are also by law required to be unbiased. And they are not necessarily a money-making organization. The BBC happens to make money, but it was not created to be a money-making organization. It was only ever made to cover costs. Kind of like the post office. Gosh, I'm so sorry. Nobody tuned in to watch me drink water, but it is. I'm completely. Anyway, this is from the CBC headline. Trump engaged in, quote, unprecedented criminal effort, special counsel says. Final report on 2020 election case. Jack Smith's report concludes there was enough evidence to secure a conviction of Trump. CBC's author of this article is Chris Iorfida. Iorfida. Sir, I desperately hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. And if I'm butchering it, my sincerest apologies. I do not mean to do that anyway. With no disrespect to you in any way. I believe it's pronounced Iorfida. So I hope I'm right about that. This was posted earlier today and updated as the day went on. Again, this is the CBC. Donald Trump engaged in an, quote, unprecedented criminal effort, unquote, to, quote, unlawfully retain power, unquote, after losing the 2020 election, Jack Smith said in a report published early Tuesday by the U.S. Justice Department, with the special counsel expressing confidence in the prospects for a conviction at a trial that will not happen now that Trump is returning to the White House. The report details the special counsel's decision to bring a 4-count indictment against Trump, accusing him of plotting to obstruct the collection and certification of votes following his 2020 defeat by Democratic President Joe Biden. Here's a difference between American media and foreign media, i.e. foreign media outside U.S. media. They actually got this part grammatically correct and historically correct. Democratic President Joe Biden, as opposed to the way the Republicans try to teach you all to say it, the Democrat president, with the emphasis on the word rat, the way Joe McCarthy taught them back in the 50s. It's the Democratic Party, and has been since Jefferson founded it. There's your nugget of history for the night. I return to the article. It includes that the evidence would have been sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction at trial. But his election win on November 5th effectively ended the case. Previous Justice Department guidance has advised against indicting a sitting president, and Trump would have undoubtedly moved to shutter the probes after his January 20th return to office. Smith's report asserted that Trump's claims of voter fraud, whether it was unfounded allegations of non-citizen voting or voting machine manipulation, were, quote, demonstrably and in many cases obviously false. Quote, Trump used these lies, Smith writes, as a weapon to defeat a federal government function foundational to the United States democratic process. Trump's own vice president and other high-ranking administration officials, as well as state officials closest to the administration of the election, rebutted his claims of fraud both in public and in private. Quote, Mr. Trump's false claims were repeatedly debunked, often directly to him by the very people best positioned to ascertain their truth, Smith wrote. Trump's former Attorney General William Barr has previously said he told the president at the time there was no widespread fraud in the election, and a cybersecurity division in Trump's own administration reached the same conclusion. This came before a mob of his supporters tried to stop Congress from certifying the election on January 6th, 2021, resulting in violence at the Capitol. Much of the evidence cited in the report has been previously made public, but it includes some new details, such as that prosecutors considering charging Trump with inciting that attack on the U.S. Capitol, January 6, 2021, under a U.S. law known as the Insurrection Act, prosecutors ultimately concluded that such a charge posed legal risks, and there was insufficient evidence that Trump intended for the full scope of the violence during the riot. For all the folks, for all the Trump supporters, followers, cult members who want to piss all over the special counsel, did you hear what I just read? This was an investigation so thorough and so fair and so unbiased that it quotes in the report places where Trump should not have been held accountable because the case could not be made beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the threshold for the judicial system in this country. And for all of you who want to piss all over the special counsel because Merrick Garland, 2.5 years too late, finally, after being shamed into it by the Congressional January 6th Committee, because he finally did it. It's the same special counsel law that gave you your special counsel of Hunter Biden. The law cannot be unconstitutional for Trump and perfectly legal for Hunter Biden. That's not how the law fracking works. One person cannot be pulled over for speeding for doing 70, while the other does 80 by the same cop, and one gets away. The law is the law. Trump has rarely, if ever, followed the law in his entire existence. I suspect he can spell it, which would be the normal joke to follow what I just said. But Dodie can even spell law. He can spell it. He's not dumb. He can be stupid at times. He can be willfully stupid. But he's not dumb. He's not. Please take careful consideration of the weight of what has been put in Jack Smith's report. Trump is guilty. Smith, who has tried war criminals at The Hague. He knows how to try cases under extraordinary circumstances and in many different venues. He knows how to do these things. It has been a significant part of his career. He knows what he's doing. He's telling you in this report, this particular possible set of charges, not good enough. Not good enough, not strong enough case, not enough evidence to bring this to court. This, absolutely. And I am convinced, rather comfortably, by the way, that a conviction would have been reached. Trump is only being saved from jail, from trial, conviction, and jail by the fact that he won the election on November 5th. It is the only thing saving it. By the way, folks, it's one of the only reasons he ran again. He ran for money and power to keep his ass out of jail. Keep that 300-pound glimmering white ass out of jail. Trump's pretty cheap. I'm pretty sure they're not spraying the whole body. Just the parts we can see. And thank God there ain't a lot of that. Let me continue. The office did not find any case in which a criminal defendant was charged with insurrection for acting within the government to maintain power as opposed to overthrowing it or thwarting it from outside, said Smith. The indictment charged Trump with conspiring to obstruct the election certification, defraud the United States of accurate election results, and deprive U.S. voters of their voting rights. Smith's office determined that charges may have been justified against some co-conspirators accused of helping Trump carry out the plan, but the report said prosecutors reached no final conclusions. Several of Trump's lawyers had previously been identified as co-conspirators referenced in the indictment. Prosecutors gave a detailed view of their case against Trump in previous court filings. A congressional panel in 2022, that would be the Jan 6 committee, published its own 700-page account of Trump's actions following the 2020 election. It was that report that finally made Merrick Garland do his job. Look, I don't know. I don't know Joe Biden. He doesn't know me. He wouldn't know me if he tripped over. He wouldn't know me if he bumped into me. He wouldn't know me if I bumped into him. But my sense from the way President Biden has carried himself in office is if he knew that Merrick Garland was going to be arguably the weakest attorney general in the history of this country, the slowest to act with obvious evidence in front of him, timid, scared, obstinate, he probably never would have appointed him in the first place. But I think the reason President Biden didn't make a change, which he has the constitutional right to do, fire Garland and appoint or nominate a new attorney general, which would have gotten through the Senate, by the way, because Democrats had majority, is because it would look political. If he had fired Garland after a year, 2 years, appointed Sheldon Whitehouse, who would not just be a good attorney general, but extraordinary, and then a mass of investigations had come out on Trump, it would have looked purely political. Merrick Garland was feckless. There are very few parts of the Biden administration that I'm looking forward to seeing go away on Monday the 20th. Merrick Garland is probably at the top of that list. I can't wait. He's been a dreadful attorney general. Now, Trump's will be worse, be completely different and completely worse. But Merrick Garland had obvious things that he needed to do. And the evidence was there. It's still there. And he did nothing. Nothing. I thought he would be an attorney general with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. A little bit of chip on his shoulder for being denied the Supreme Court justice seat that he had earned. A seat that Republicans told Barack Obama, yeah, here's a guy we can live with. And they stonewalled his nomination. I thought he'd have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder from that. Been a truly dreadful attorney general. Feckless and gutless, actionless, obstinate, stubborn. He knows better than all the rest of us. He's going to look like Clarence Darrow compared to Pam Bondi, but a wasted 4 years at the Justice Department. Smith's report noted that the Trump pressure campaign was selective. Quote, significantly, he made election claims only to state legislators and executives who shared his political affiliation and were his political supporters, and only in states that he had lost, Smith wrote. Smith's case faced legal hurdles even before Trump's election. It was paused for months while Trump pressured his claim that he could not be prosecuted for official actions taken as president. The Supreme Court's conservative majority largely sided with him, granting former presidents broad immunity from criminal prosecution. Judge Cannon, the Supreme Court, conspired together to ride out Biden's term with the hope that Trump would be returned to office and that all of this would go away. And it worked perfectly. Delay, 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 delay. Except Trump didn't have to go to court to keep delaying things. He had Eileen Cannon. A purchased, right off the shelf, grown in a test tube, Koch brother, Federalist Society, judge, wink, wink, wink. She's done exactly what she was bought and paid for to do. She helped kill this case. Not exclusively, the Supreme Court has a hand in this too. But she, more than anyone, who should have recused herself from moment one, she did her job. She did what she's being paid for. And I don't mean her check from the federal government. Quote, before this case, no one had ever found that presidents are immune from criminal responsibility for their official acts, and no text in the Constitution explicitly confers such criminal immunity on the president, wrote Smith. Quote, the special counsel office proceeded from the same premise. After the release, Trump, in a post on Truth Social, called Smith a lame-brained prosecutor who was unable to get his case tried before the election. Yeah, well, when the Supreme Court itself helps you delay the case by 4 months, and a feckless and gutless attorney general who waited 2.5 years to appoint Smith in the first place. Jesus, Trump didn't need help. He had Merrick Garland. In a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland made public by the U.S. Justice Department, Trump's lawyers called the report politically motivated attack. This goes for both parties, by the way. Generally speaking, when your only defense is that it's a politically motivated attack, it's because it's correct. If that's the only thing you can say, oh, it's just a politically motivated attack, it means the attack is correct and true and damaging. Jack Smith, who has put war criminals in jail in international court, is telling you that Trump is guilty and would have been found guilty easily in a court of law. But Trump had Eileen Cannon in his pocket, the Supreme Corporation in his pocket, and the billionaires who pay them. Because at the end of the day, they just want tax cuts. They don't want to pay any taxes. And they're willing to have an unstable felon in the White House to do it. I've told you before on this program. Billionaire class in this country has made a decision as a collective. They do not need, they do not want, it is no longer convenient to them for their psychopathical hoarding of wealth. They no longer need, want democracy. Fascism is better for them. They get to run things just by spreading tiny percentages of their wealth and buying government. Not just the federal government, the Supreme Court, state legislatures across this country, governor's mansions across this country. And you see Musk, now he's ready to start buying governments in the UK, Germany, France. He's not done. He's worth $500 billion. Let's say he spends $1 billion in Germany, the UK, and France. He's still got well over 400 billion left. $1 billion is pocket change. It's not even equivalent of a penny falling out of you or I, our pockets. We need the penny a hell of a lot more. He can sneeze and drop $1 billion on the ground and never miss it. He and his like, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Koch, Mercer, Thiel, Adelson when he was alive, the DeVosses, and just so many more. Jeffrey Yass, right here in PA. They've come to a collective decision that they do not need democracy. They don't want it anymore. They have become this fabulously wealthy by buying and manipulating democracy. Now that they are this fabulously wealthy, they want to keep it all for themselves. They don't need democracy. Tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts. And they have bought an entire political party. They bought too big a slice of my party. and they are ready to shut down 2/3 of the federal government just because they don't want to pay. They do not want to pay to be part of a civilized society. They would rather turn this country into medieval Europe. The landed gentry and the serfs, the uneducated serfs. So we'll take school away from you, we'll take unions from you, we'll take jobs from you. We will make you poor, starving, and desperate. The only people you can survive from is us, the billionaires, which means you'll take what we give you. You'll take the table scraps and fight among yourselves to see who gets them. It's medieval. I've used the term fascistic on this program probably a million times. One of the first people that I know of in all of media, big media, who wouldn't know me if they tripped over me, including other folks who do what I do, and really popular ones. I was using the term fascism and fascist well before they ever did. And that I'm not patting myself on the back for it. I'm not that smart, truly. But I'm not so sure that we haven't evolved beyond that now. This isn't just fascism anymore. There are fascistic elements to it, the Christian nationalism, the open racism, the hatred, scapegoating of certain segments of our population, i.e. trans and LGBTQIA folks. That and the book burning, it's very fascistic, very 1920s Italy, very 1930s Germany. The billionaires, I think, have possibly even moved beyond that now. They're looking at the Dark Ages. We own everything. You pay taxes to us for the privilege of doing all the labor we won't do. We continue to get more and more and more fabulously wealthy. You go pick the stubble of the fields to feed yourself. Schools, no more. Women working, no more. Go be a serf or go in the military. It is dystopian. It is post-apocalyptic. It is so many bad science fiction movies and a lot of damn good science fiction movies that we've all seen before. It's the landed gentry and the serfs. I'm really beginning to think that fascism doesn't even quite cover it. But a second Dark Ages, where a tiny, tiny handful of people control and own everything, and the rest of us are simply worker drones. It's very, very, very medieval Europe. If you've never watched it, it's not the greatest documentary in the world, but it's very informative. There was there were 2 series on the History Channel. They're old now. I think they're well over 10 years old now. Hopefully you could find it on the History Channel app. They actually do have an app with some free stuff on it. Well, the app itself is free. They do post some content on there that is completely free, usually older programs. These programs are probably got to be at least 10 years old, if not older. There were 3 series. 2 series of the Barbarians, 1 and 2. Celts, Picts, the Vikings, the Visigoths, and on and on and on. And so much of that history comes out of the collapse of the Roman Empire. ushering in the Dark Ages. But they also did do a pretty long one. I think it might even be 3 straight hours, or it might be 2 parts of 2 hours each, called The Dark Ages. And it's, again, like I said, it's not great. It's one of those documentaries. I think Edward Herman is because he was the voice of the History Channel for years. I think he's the narrator. And a lot of the scenes are recreations, which I hate, rather than using just the actual art from the time to tell the story the way Ken Burns probably would. They use a lot of recreations with actors and so on. But it's an excellent, pretty concise explanation of the Dark Ages, the Black Plague, and the way there really were only 3 classes of people. All the rich and royalty who were educated, they bathed on a regular basis. They all married amongst themselves. They had their kingdoms, and all the people in the land paid them taxes, tribute, really, while they farmed. And then the lords, of course, took a chunk of the crops and the livestock for themselves without having to do any work, simply because they were born into the right family or because they had the most men that they could pay with swords. Not paying them with swords, but men with swords that they could pay. The knights were somewhere there in the middle. The clergy was in there. Everybody else was a serf. They died young. They were sick. They didn't bathe. They didn't change clothing. It's an older one, but if you can find it, check it out. I'm really starting to think that that's where we're headed now. I really, really am. The only other thing I wanted to try to get to was this. Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, began his Senate confirmation hearings today. I was working. I could not watch them. I wasn't really quite sure where to watch them. Randall mentioned PBS in the chat. I probably should have gone to pbs.org. I probably could have watched it for free. C-SPAN, probably could have watched it there, even after I told you all about it. Anyway, headline, Hegseth confronts allegations of misconduct as senators grill Trump's choice for Pentagon chief. This is an article written by Lisa Mascaro, Tara Kopp, and Matt Brown of the Associated Press. Dateline, Washington. President-elect Donald Trump's choice for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth vowed Tuesday to foster a, quote, warrior culture at the Pentagon, confronted allegations of sexual assault and excessive drinking and questions about his derisive views of women in combat during a heated Senate confirmation hearing. Hegseth repeatedly deflected the various misconduct allegations and instead focused on his own military experience in the Army National Guard, as senators determined whether the combat veteran and former TV news host, not just TV, Fox, is fit to lead the U.S. military. Quote, it's time to give someone with dust on his boots the helm, a change agent, Hegseth said in his opening remarks. I'm going quickly because I'm running out of time. We're down to 5 minutes. Asked directly about the sexual assault allegation, Hegseth dismissed it as a smear campaign. What did I just say? When you say it's a blatant political attack or a smear campaign, it's because it's true. Because you have no other defense. So you say it's a smear campaign, where you say it's a political attack. He vowed not to drink alcohol if he is confirmed to lead the Pentagon. Alcoholism is a genuine, real disease that deserves our compassion and medical treatment. But the first step to curing a problem is admitting you have one. Mr. Hegseth hasn't even gotten there yet. Senators spent hours probing concerns surrounding Hegseth, with the Republican chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, acknowledging the unconventional choice of Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, compared Hegseth to Trump himself, and said he will bring energy and fresh ideas to stake up the bureaucracy. $1.5 trillion bureaucracy. The top Democrat, Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, however, called the allegations extremely alarming and said flatly, "I do not believe that you are qualified to meet the overwhelming demands of this job." Hegseth, who is 44, comes from a new generation of veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and his military experience is widely used as an asset. He also brings a jarring record of past actions and statements, including about women, minorities, and woke generals. Hegseth does not have the credentials typical of a defense secretary, raising questions about his ability to manage an organization with nearly 2.1 million service members, about 780,000 civilians, and a budget of roughly $850 billion. The most recent defense spending bill was $895 billion. Senator Sanders would tell you that there are ancillary costs that are not listed, not generally considered as part of the Pentagon budget, but actually are, which really raises that, according to Senator Sanders' office, in real dollars to somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.3 trillion. One of the only things that billionaires are willing to pay for, because the U.S. Navy gives them free protection for their ships. The Army conquers land that they can drill for oil. More than 4-hour hearing launched a week-long marathon for these. I'm really cutting to it now. His cabinet picks will be up on the Hill all week. Hegseth was combative at times as he was forced to confront the allegations of misconduct and his own comments that are far from the military mainstream. Hegseth, on his opposition to diversity initiatives, or pressed on his opposition to diversity initiatives, Hegseth agreed that the military, quote, was a forerunner in courageous racial integration. It's the largest socialist institution on the planet. Easiest definition of socialism is when we all combine in to pay something for a service or a need that we cannot provide for ourselves, i.e. the national defense. Of course, it led the way in integration. He doesn't like that, though. But then again, that's Trump. And that's all the people around him. Stephen Miller, a Jew himself, who would have them expelled from this country. What a bright note to end on. But we have to end. It's 8:59. It's the end of our program. We will be back Thursday, the 16th, from 8 p.m. Hurricane Girls follows us immediately on GCPR Live. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11. Thomas returns tomorrow morning from 8. Everybody at GCPR and everyone who surrounds the Kennedy Effect, George, Lynn, Kristen, Daisy the dog, and of course April Riddick. I am Jeff Kennedy. It's been an honor to be with you yet again tonight, as you have watched me struggle through yet another wonderfully healthy night of desperate thirst, pain, and exhaustion. Thanks so much for being here. We're going to keep fighting a good fight. Stay tuned. We'll see you again Thursday. Hurricane Girls starts right